yeah, they had us the first half. I'm not going to lie. They had us. We weren't defeated, but they had.
All right, guys, it's time to talk about Kassadin, or my favorite name for him, the insurance policy. I've given him this name because it feels like every single game that he is in that goes past 30 minutes usually favors the team that he is on. By that point, he has his level 16 ultimate, Zanya's, and a lot of other AP items that allow his ultimate. Yeah, that's pretty much all you need to use in the late game to do so much damage and to carry team fights. Hey guys, please go smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. It takes 1.5 seconds and it really helps me out a lot. Also, I stream on Twitch. I know I said YouTube in the last video, but it's now on Twitch. I'm sorry for the change. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So go ahead and follow me on Twitch. The link is in the description below. I'd love for y'all to come and hang out. In these Ticket to Diamond videos, I try to share my knowledge about each champion so that you can find success with them, or at least learn how to counter them in your games. I think it is safe to say that very few people that are watching this video will ever make it to Challenger, but I think Diamond is a great goal for any of League of Legends players, and I personally think that regardless of the meta, you can use any champion in the game to get to Diamond. The level of play below Masters is so volatile that if you can master a champion and learn the key elements of the game, you'll have a great shot at making it to Diamond with whatever champion you want to. Yes, the meta will always favor a certain small pool of champions, and that is because when put in an equal and balanced environment, those champions will likely be stronger and come out on top. But the reality is that any game, especially below Diamond, is so volatile that you can make almost anything work. Kassadin is a champion that you pick when you want to make sure that you're going to win the game if it goes longer than 30 minutes. Before then, he is pretty average, and you need to do what you can to get as much XP as possible so that you can hit your level 16 super power spike as soon as possible. The average low elo game lasts for around 30 minutes, and the average challenger game lasts 24. Using this general timeline, why doesn't Kassadin have a massive win rate below Diamond? Well, I think it's for a couple very important reasons. The first is that low elo players don't understand his power spikes. They know in general that he is good late, but they don't understand how to get there, or how his power grows over the course of the game. Champions like Zed, Fizz, and Syndra can really push him around and either kill him or repeatedly force him out of lane. The laning phase is really important for Kassadin. It may not seem like it because he will inevitably scale, but if you want to have a good win rate on him and consistently use him to climb, you have to do well in the laning phase to set up more consistent wins. Now, I don't mean getting 5 kills during the laning phase. That likely won't happen unless your lane opponent is absolute trash, but I mean that in your hard matchups, you have to know when to give up CS so you don't get chunked or repeatedly pushed out of lane. If you're against an Orianna, for example, and she's trying to harass you, if you can stay within 15 to 20 CS and still soak up the same amount of XP as her, you are on track to outscaling her very quickly. The way to counter Kassadin is to harass him and all in him when he steps up too far or takes trades that he shouldn't in losing situations. This is where most Kassadins mess up and end up throwing the first half of the game. I'll talk about a couple of other gameplay tips at the end of the video, but now let's talk about why you should play him. Kassadin is an infamous champion in League. He has been a dominant champion for so long, mainly due to his low cooldown ultimate, which is basically flash that does damage every couple of seconds. A couple of years ago, he got around a 95% ban rate in solo queue, and in one of the world champions almost had the same ban rate. This champion has always had hard carry potential, and although the current Kassain we have today is different from the 95% ban rate Cass, he still has a similar playstyle and dominant presence in solo queue. He's a champion that really rewards great laning. If you're a mid laner that understands and knows a lot of the matchups, or you are someone that will take the time to learn the intricacies of what it takes to lane well, Kassadin is a great champion for you to pick up. Learning how to successfully lose lane is a great skill and will take you far on this champion. So if you want to hard carry your games by the small movements and decisions you make that no one else in the game will notice, then this is the champion for you. Of course, you'll have great moments in skirmishes and team fights, but the way he gets there and the way most other champions get strong is in the smart, small decisions you make in the early game. Also, if it is any consolation, arguably the best solo queue player in the world, Dopa or Apto, mains Kassadin. So yeah, there's that too. The first thing I like is Riot's attempt to nerf Kassadin. Recently, they took away 5 movement speed, so now he is nerfed to the ground and can never be played again. I'm obviously kidding, but it is crazy to think that after the nerf, Kassadin dropped from a 54% win rate all the way down to 51%. And I personally think something as small as 5 movement speed is not the culprit of this. Riot knows that there is a stigma around recently nerfed champions. They know that players will stop playing them because they are looking for the next OP champion, but in my opinion, Kassadin didn't go anywhere and he's still as strong as ever. The second thing I like is Kassadin's great mid-game split push potential. If you were successful in the laning phase and you didn't get crushed like I told you not to, then you can swap with your bot lane and split push. Now this is great for 3 reasons. The first is that it allows you to soak up solo XP in a side lane. I see a lot of low elo players focus on grouping way too early and at the wrong times. In most situations, Kassadin should not be grouping randomly in the mid game. Instead, you should be in a side lane getting solo XP and accomplishing the second thing, which is stacking Kassadin's build, which includes 3 items that need progress. You need Rod of Ages, Tear, and to a lesser extent, Seeker's Arm Guard. To stack all of these, you need time, mana usage, and minion kills. And it is really hard to stack your items when you are fighting over CS with your ADC in the mid lane. And usually, if you are the mid laner, you are in the wrong for staying. Your ADC is just going to be able to wave clear much better and have more pressure mid than you would have been able to. So just help yourself and help your team by going to a side lane so you can scale up and apply pressure, which is also the third reason. Spreading your team out, especially when you have strong roaming and dueling power, will allow your team to keep up the tempo and not randomly throw a bad team fight mid and then lose your lead. So just go split push and enjoy your games a lot more. The next thing I like about Kassadin, which is no surprise to anybody, is his ultimate. Like I mentioned earlier, it is like a flash that does damage while on an insanely short cooldown. And when you hit level 16, it does an insane amount of damage. You can also stack it up when it comes off cooldown every couple of seconds, so it does even more damage. Especially when your tier is fully stacked, you can use your 800 cost mana ultimate to absolutely delete the other team in team fights. A cool little trick to catch your opponents off guard also is to use your ult and then flash in the direction that you want to go for a very quick gap closer that also deals way too much damage. Trust me, use it in one of your games, especially at the end game. You can almost one-shot the ADC. You'll be happy that you did it. I think it's obvious to say that I like Kassadin's late game damage. It is just so dang strong, and you can just ult a couple of times in a team fight to delete everybody. You also have Zanya's and the shield from Seraph's Embrace to increase your survivability. Kassadin's items are awesome, and I really like getting them. Just the feeling that everything you do throughout the game will lead to you ultimately being strong, yet so tanky, is a great feeling. Also, having enough mana to use your 800 cost ultimate over and over and over again is awesome because it just does so much damage. You're just gonna scale into a monster, and the opposing team needs to find a way early to win, otherwise your insurance policy will kick in and you'll win the game.
He's up, he's up.
Oh, okay. Going.
Alright, yes, and kind of chunk him for me.
Now, there's a lot that can be frustrating about Kassadin. Waiting to scale up, running out of mana, when you misuse your ultimate, and have a relatively weak laning phase, just to name a few. Let's start with his laning phase. Kassadin is a melee champion that has a hard time farming and trading with ranged champions in the early game. He also has a hard time against AD assassins because his passive and his Q only blocks and mitigates magic damage, so they're pretty useless when laning against an AD champion, and especially when the jungler is AD as well. This forces you to change your itemization on Kassadin, which isn't super ideal because it delays your scaling items, but it is necessary in order to survive until the later stages of the game. I also don't really like having to strategically lose lane. There are just some matchups that if played well by your opponent, you're just not going to win. You're probably going to be in a CS deficit, so having the humility and the understanding that you need to give up some more farm so you don't give up unnecessary kills is hard and isn't always fun, but it is necessary in order to give yourself the best chance of winning. I don't always love having to lose farm and sit back far enough to soak in XP, but sometimes you just have to do it. Kassadin runs out of mana a lot, not because he has a low mana pool, but because his ultimate demands so much and it increases every time he uses it, up to 800 mana per ult. This can add up quickly if you don't have a fully stacked tier and Rod of Ages. Because of this, you really have to manage his mana and ult cost. Contrary to popular belief, it isn't smart to just ult all over the place during the early part of the game because you're just going to run out of mana and lose your escape for 20 seconds, which in my opinion is kind of too long. If Riot were to make any changes to this champion, my vote would be to decrease the time to stack his ultimate down to 15 seconds from where it is right now at 20. I'll say that this is both good and bad as it currently stands. It is bad in the early game because it means you'll have to wait longer in the early game to use your ultimate at a cheaper per mana cost. But having this 20-second buffer is good later in the game because you'll have the mana to use your 800 cost ults. You can afford to use it multiple times at the cost because you have the large mana pool from Tier and Rod of Ages. And if they lowered the duration to stack his ultimate cost, it would be a buff to his early game and a nerf to his late game. And from a balance perspective, I think this is better for the overall health of the game and the champion. So something that I haven't been mentioning in my videos that I realized that I probably should are some gameplay tips. Most guides on YouTube have way too many tips to actually be implemented and helpful, but I want to add a couple at the end of my videos that will actually help you climb. A couple key things that will allow you to make the most of your games and have the highest win rate possible. The first tip I have is to not buy Tier or Catalyst first. I know it's tempting because you know you need to scale, so you want to buy Tier or Catalyst early so you can start stacking them, but that isn't always the best play. I would actually recommend buying a Blasting Wand and Dark Seal on your first back instead of a Catalyst. This will allow you to actually do damage if your jungler decides to visit your lane, and can even set up some solo kills if your opponent makes a mistake. The second tip is to take Ignite and not Teleport. I know it can be tempting because you'll want to time your backs well so you can get your stacking items, but taking Ignite will add some great damage in your 1v1s when you split push, and it'll add even more kill potential in your lane. Also, with the recent changes to Teleport, it really only favors top laners now, so taking Ignite is kind of a no-brainer. The last thing you need to be aware of is to not be greedy. I know the temptation to overextend to last hit the minion. Even though you'll get harassed and your HP bar will be chunked, I'm telling you it's not worth it, trust me. This will make you a target for ganks and also more susceptible to all-ins. You're most likely going to be laning against champions designed to 100 to 0 you, so you need to do your best to stay healthy and continue to soak up XP. You'll have to learn the balance between getting farm and also letting it go. Just remember, the moral of the story is to lose lane strategically. Okay, for the runes, these are what you're going to want to take. Fleet Footwork adds to his mobility and offers great sustain in lane. Taking the healing runes in the secondary domination tree will also aid in his healing and sustain, which is what this game is all about when you're playing Kassadin. This is a typical Kassadin build as well. I don't usually build Lichbane, I just think that Zanya's and Deathcap are better items on him, and I also don't think that you need the CDR because once you hit level 16, his ultimate is already on an insanely low cooldown. Guys, that is all I have for you. Also guys, go follow me on Instagram. I'm going to start posting clips for my stream. Remember, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday on Twitch. Go follow me, it's I'm Snowta. I would really appreciate it. Also guys, thank you so much for 1,000 subscribers. I did not think I would get here this quick, and the love means the world. So thank you so much. And as always, this has been Snowta. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.